Bob is the Badizio group, Bob Hinkie. So his group is running all of that. And so it's a 5K walk, run, ride, play, scooter, and then there's a bike race and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that sounds
We're also
great.
doing
And
it.
it's a good time of year for it.
Well, we're hoping. We were hoping for the end of September, but there was some conflicts, so we took this the week before his conference. We took this. It's also a virtual thing over the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we're doing the live one Sunday, Saturday. So people anywhere in the world could actually sign out, get their tags, go out and do their thing, and post their times. And
Oh, that's really
so
fun.
anyway,
Okay,
we're
good to
hoping that it'll be a
know.
good thing.
Well, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
If you don't have an extra pen, don't you?
I sure do.
If you don't
You
mind,
prefer a pen or a pencil?
whatever you have. I was going over it, and I must have gone off without it. So,
Hello, welcome.
so. Oh, do you think everyone is here for support?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
One of those things where you let people stay in the audience. Okay.
Well, hopefully it's not just you and I, or we'll have to reschedule anyway.
I wasn't sure if Bob was, he was had planned to be
He
out.
messaged me that he's out of town, but he said he may join virtually. So
Yeah,
I'm,
that's true. That's
I'm
true.
checking
Yeah.
in with him.
He,
Oh, he said he'll be there in person.
yeah, he
Here,
had a
okay.
little boy, grandson or something that he said may need to have some surgery or something, a foot injury or something, a foot thing. So he said he might still be in town. So
Okay, okay.
that's awesome.
Yeah, Deb's screen, I hope shows up.
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you? It's been a while. So nice to see you.
It's in the library. Yeah.
Hey there. How are you? Great to see you.
Hey. Glad you could make it.
I guess Joe's coming, right?
I don't know. I'm never sure. I know Julie won't be here. Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Great.
Supreme Court does. They walk in and shake everybody's hand before they
Good to
argue with
see
each
ya.
other.
Grandson ended up having foot surgery today, so we're leaving tomorrow. No,
Doing all right though.
but delayed our start.
Oh, welcome.
She's joking.
Actually, your mic and your mic.
Yeah, let's do that. Name tag here.
Is Bob gone now?
He is. Yep.
Yes.
He's left us. This you'll find is a handout that was provided just by one of the members here tonight. Joe, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, not at all. Be
Excellent.
happy to.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. This is the Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. It's 6 p.m. and we're meeting here in the Providence City Office Building. My name is Shelley and I will be chairing the meeting. I'll go ahead and introduce the rest of the commission. To my far right, we have Michael Fortune, and we have John Peterson, Bob Hankey, and to my left, we have Joe Chambers. Not here with us tonight is Julie Martin. She is excused. And we will go ahead and take the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joe. All right. Our first item of the night is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I will ask the commission if you reviewed the minutes. Did you find anything that needs to be amended or corrected?
I was not here for it, but I didn't see any issues as I reviewed it and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, I think it looks great. Okay, if we don't have any further discussion about the meetings, I'll entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Tonight we have a public hearing. I want to thank you all for being here and for joining us this evening. We will be reviewing Timberbrook Homes rezone public hearing. So this is a rezone request. The parcel is 02-096-0048, and it's located in the general area of 314 West, 100 South here in Providence. They request to seek to rezone the parcel from agricultural to R16. Would you mind grabbing the signage? Did everyone have a chance to sign in who would like to speak this evening? Okay, perfect. All right. I will invite. I'm so sorry. Is it Doug? Doug Snow? Would you like to come up and speak with us?
This one's not working.
When you're out doing yard work and you get volunteered by your neighborhood, it's time to move. So that's kind of how that goes. So, one thing we want to, our neighborhood, we live on 325 West, so just to the south of the proposed rezoning area. And I understand there's been two prior meetings. Just so you guys know, we are very concerned as a neighborhood. We would have been here, but we didn't get any notification. We would have been here. I didn't want you to think there was a lack of interest or anything like that from our neighborhood. We just didn't know about it. So I just wanted to, and I've given a handout to you guys, and I want to go through a couple of points with that. So anyway, I'm grateful for this opportunity and to live in a place where you get to do that, where you get to meet with your elected officials, coming off the 4th of July, and we live in a unique country and a unique place where we get to have these kinds of meetings and try to work together for the benefit of all. And so that's so I'm grateful for that and that opportunity. And that's my frame of reference is there a way to benefit everybody? Not just the builder, not just the city with new property tax income, benefiting people that can buy a new home that might not have been able to afford it, but also is there a way that we can protect the current property owners? And so that's the piece I want to speak on, is, how do we protect the people that have been here, living for 20 plus years on that street, as well as on First South, and paying taxes and so forth. So before I get into that handout, couple of things that I think are important. Number one is the park that's on 325 West, and a lot of people use that park, but they don't drive to it. It's a walking park. There's only 5 parking stalls, but people come from all the neighborhoods around and use it every day. I mean, once in a while you'll see some cars parked on the curb, but for them, 90% of the time it's people that are walking there. So having a walking access to that park has been sufficient. And our street and the street to the west, everybody paid $1,000, and I added up all the lots. That's $25,000 that we invested into that park, along with a lot of scout projects and sweat equity. So that park is important, but it's really functioned as a walking park, and that I think is kind of important. So I have a proposal of, can we accomplish the goal of benefiting the developer to make money, the city to get more tax revenue, people to be able to buy a new home at a lower price, and the current property owners? And so that is the handout. And so this comes from our desire not to have a through street. If there's going to be homes through there, that's not really what my focus. My focus is we can accomplish the goal and benefit everybody by not having a through street. And so I just want to go through some points. Number one, traffic and safety and speed control. Dead end streets and cul-de-sacs obviously reduce the volume and speed, creating a safer environment, especially for kids, pedestrians, and people that are using parks. Opening that street up increases vehicle speeds and volume, more accidents, and there's a study that cited 50 to 75% fewer accidents occur on dead end streets and cul-de-sacs. And it's a narrow street to start with. We'll get into that just in a bit here, but so that's some of the benefits and the downsides of having a through street versus a cul-de-sac. And like I said, there's that study by the Institute of Transportation Engineers that's crucial to this argument. Number two, preservation of neighborhood character and quality of life. We built there. A lot of people have been there for 20 plus years because it was a dead end street, and because there was a park there which we helped install, and quiet neighborhood. Through streets reduce property values. Cul-de-sacs and dead end streets maintain property value, and that comes from the National Association of Realtors. So this statement I'm making is backed up with data and multiple studies that we do not want to take a hit on our property values, as well as we want to keep the condition of the neighborhood in a quiet, very low traffic, which is why we moved there in the first place. The next item is lack of infrastructure to support through traffic. So it's a narrow street. All the garbage cans have to be put on the east side. The only reason we were able to get mail down there is because they used that the parking lot for the park to turn around. The garbage trucks go in and they back all the way out of that road. And people park on both sides of the street, so it's a narrow street. And by increasing the traffic, there's going to be some issues there. Certainly, you can have drainage, lighting, all kinds of other issues that could come up. Another issue is emergency access can still be maintained on both sides without it being a through street, either by the creation of cul-de-sacs on both ends or by a gate system. So, for example, at Mountain Crest High School, there's a gate that allows access for garbage trucks, food vendors, emergency vehicle personnel, where they have a fob that opens that gate. So if a cul-de-sac becomes out of the question, then you can have a gate there that through traffic can't get through, but mail, garbage, and emergency vehicles would always have access to get through, and you could have a walking path to the park for all the residents. But there is a way to prevent a through street and still have everything that you need there. The other point I want to bring up is there's alternative routes already exist. You already have two through streets, one above 325 and one below. So Second West connects Third South and First South, and 485 West connects First South and Third South. So in a 2.5 block area, you don't need a third street to connect those two streets. You have plenty of access, and it would limit the other thing we worry about is there's going to be other traffic going through there, not just the residents. I was an administrator at Spring Creek Middle School, and even though that new parking lot that's at the north end of this parcel across on the north side of First South is not a official drop-off spot for the school, it will be used as such de facto, just like Zollinger Park is. I was there, people were using every place to pick up and drop off their kids so they didn't have to be in line. I would do the same thing as a parent. So to think that other people aren't going to be driving through that street besides residents, I'm just telling you, having worked there, you're going to have a lot of traffic that are non-residents on that street. And so that's another consideration. So again, with the already existing through streets on Second West and 485 West, and the ability to keep all four involved parties, the city, the developers, the future homeowners, and the current property value, there's a way you can keep everybody happy. And that is simply by not having a through street via cul-de-sac or a gated system. And so that's what we're asking for is for the fact that, you know, we've been there for a long time. We worked really hard. We lined the street with trees. We put trees in the park. We put in that playground. We've done a lot to create a really, really nice little neighborhood there. Quiet, and we'd like to keep it that way, but understanding there's growth and there's need for home, and we think you can go about it in such a way that has a positive impact on the current property owners as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your preparation, for being so organized. Please remember this is a formal process. And typically we do only allow 2 minutes per person. I understand that Doug has done a lot of research and he represents you also as a spokesperson. So I'd like to ask that if you have anything new to add, to bring that to us. But we'll definitely consider all the things that Doug said and probably don't need to hear that again if that's acceptable with you. I will go ahead and invite Jaden Smith.
So I'm going to be representing the developer. I don't know if you want.
Oh, perfect. We'll have you up in just a moment then. Bill Monday.
I just have some questions. That's
Okay, yeah, just join us at the mic, please.
Okay.
And if you'll just state your name for the record.
Bill Munding. I live at 288 South, 325 West. I'm here to gather information. I just learned this from my neighbor, Holly, 2 days before you put the sign up. And so here to gather information. I did talk to Doug, and I'm totally supportive of what he just got through describing. The through street is very important. So I'd like to hear from the council what you have done and share things with the neighborhood. That's what I'd like for you guys to speak up and what's been done so far. This is the first meeting I know about. I've heard there's been 3, but so I'd like to hear from you guys. So where are we to this point? Has it been rezoned? That's what I'd like information.
Excellent. Well, and I apologize. I usually do bring Scarlett up here to go over her staff report first, but it is later on in the meeting. So if you'll
Okay.
just hang tight, and we'll try to get all of your questions answered.
Okay.
And I will open up another general comment. I did skip over that on the agenda, so I will open that up if there's any follow-up that we need to discuss following this hearing.
But in
Okay.
answer to his question, though, the property has not been, the city council
Yes.
does that.
Yes.
Okay.
We can.
And the public hearing that is required before we can make, this body, the planning commission, can make a recommendation to the city council. We are,
I see.
delegated the public meeting, open public meeting aspect of it, which was what we're in right now.
Okay.
And just so you know, and I've said this 100 times, but the city council can accept our recommendation, reject the recommendation, or anywhere in between that, modify the recommendation. So this is a first step in a process to rezone it, and it may or may not occur. Does that help you?
Yes. So at this point, it has not been rezoned?
It has not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will invite Gina up to speak with us. Gina Thompson.
She volunteered me last minute.
Great. Mark, if you'll just say your name for the record.
Mark Thompson. I got to bounce back on some of the things that Doug had to say, and I don't want to offend Doug or anybody here. It seems like once you're in position, everybody else is locked out. I was here first. This is what I want. And I understand that because I've been in that position before. Living on 100 South, we experienced the same thing. It was a cul-de-sac. It was a cul-de-sac by the city that the city had approved and had put into place. Hindsight, I can see that that wasn't a good cul-de-sac. We actually hired an attorney and looked at trying to fight that with the city. It was pushed through by the city, and that is a good access road from uptown to downtown. So cul-de-sacs are good. They're preferenced, and I understand what these residents are saying. I'm here in support of this road going through. I somehow ended up with a copy of the things that Doug went over. Shorter distances create less pollution. They're worried about that being a shorter distance to get to, say, the park, the school, or whatever. But if you think about that, that's less pollution because it's a shortcut to where they need to get to instead of driving all the way around. And I just wanted to highlight that point. Also, it talks about being agricultural forever. Let me tell you, you can't be a farmer in town anymore. The smell, the tractors, the irrigation, everything becomes more and more of a problem. And if you can get your neighborhood together like you did for the park, maybe you could all buy the farm and take turns farming. There's a time for farm ground internally in the city to become developed. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's just the matter of fact. Those farm grounds can easily be converted to parks if they're not developed for housing. The housing around there that's been developed is concentrated, and it's a good place to concentrate housing because it's within walking distance of one school, the post office, shopping, eateries. Everywhere you need to walk, you can walk to from that location, and that is ideal for development. The federal government has put out a statement that they want cities, states, and cities to accommodate housing, affordable housing. And if I can just review Resolution 016-2022 by this city, it says the city general plan was approved, Resolution 004-2020 on April 15th of 2020. It talks about the plan containing moderate income housing elements. It goes on to talk about the city will provide a realistic opportunity for development of moderate income housing within the next 5 years. The Planning Commission also needs to include an analysis of realistic opportunities for development of moderate income housing over the next 5 years. I won't read the whole thing. Rezone for densities necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing. Waive construction-related fees to accommodate moderate income housing. Zone or rezone for higher density, moderate income residential development. Implement zoning incentives for moderate income unit in new developments. Couple more. Modify existing regulatory measure to encourage the development of affordable housing and reduce production costs. Adopt new regulatory measures to encourage the development of affordable housing. Utilize selective rezoning of residential land to allow greater density for both single family and multifamily. As you know, in that area, we have several multifamily units. Utilize selective rezone of residential land to allow greater density for both single family and multifamily. Density bonuses for certain types of development. One more. Modify existing regulatory measures, which are the council has to look at. It's asking to modify those measures to encourage the development of affordable housing. Rezone for density necessary to facilitate the production of moderate income housing. Doug, the $25,000 that your neighbors collected to do that park over there, I don't want to go out on a limb and make any kind of a statement, but my wife and I donated 2 years ago the property over there to the tune of $500,000, our money. We didn't collect from the neighbors around there. It was my wife and I that donated that. And the reason we done that is we wanted to see those neighbor kids grow up like our kids grew up. A place to go, a place to spend time. That being a through street will provide better access for those kids, whether they walk, whether they ride their bikes. They don't have to go all the way around. They can get to that by walking. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And Gina. All right, let me see here. Next, I have Eric John.
Hi, Eric John. I am representing Rex and Tammy in the sale of their property. And so I am just going to touch, you said 2 minutes. I'll try to be short. Okay, there is a lot of stuff. Mark actually just touched on a lot of the things. If anyone is curious on what he was talking about, if you could look this up with the city. That resolution does the whole thing is talking about steps that the city has committed to take for moderate housing, and there is a bunch in there, but I'll leave it at what he went over for right now. A couple things that I will touch on though is some of the things that that were on that Doug went over. I feel like a lot of those things are actually addressed in a positive way if this is a through street. A lot of the things that so traffic is all going to go toward past the south, the people who already live there. If this is a cul-de-sac, all of that traffic comes back through there where they live. Where if it's a through street, those residents can go out to First South, and it will actually alleviate that. So on those things, the traffic safety, you know, there's still going to be speed limits. There's still going to be, everything else will be the same, but it will actually give a different way for people to leave that area so that it's not so congested. And I think that will actually be a net positive on that area. I don't believe that the values will be affected negatively if that's a through street. Again, it's not adding much traffic to the south. I think it's going to alleviate. So I think all of those things that he talked about, I think will actually get better. Garbage trucks having to back out, that will alleviate those problems. Lots of those things will get better. The main part for that I feel like is a big positive for this. We could go through all of these things and talk about all the reasons that it should be that the city, you know, should be in favor of it and everything else. But I'll just go back to just the need for this type of real estate is huge. Studies that they've done, questionnaires that they've done in northern Utah, and especially in Cache Valley, one of the biggest concerns that people have for areas like this is they don't have housing for the new generation. Their kids are growing up and people don't have anywhere. They're worried that their kids are going to have to move out of the valley or somewhere else. If, you know, their only option right now is condos and townhomes and those types of things. So there is a huge need for this. We see it every day as we help clients buy and sell. That is a huge concern to all of them, that there's not any options, especially in good cities like Providence, to give them that stepping stone. To move from a townhome to a home in a good city is very difficult. And I think that this is a big deal for that. It actually talks about that in that resolution. I'll hurry and just say that one last thing. It talks about that is one of their concerns, is that there is not enough housing for that median family. Here it is. Sorry. So you have in the area, you have condos are about $280,000. The townhomes are about $365,000. And all the homes that are on the market in Providence right now, there are only a handful. There's 6 that are under $500,000. There are 32 that are listed that are over $500,000. And the price range that it talks about in the resolution that the city passed unanimously, it says that they need to demonstrate implementation of any other program or strategy to address the housing needs of residents of let's see here, who earn less than 80% of the area's median income, which would be $72,000 a year. And there is no options for those people. So developments like this are crucial to meet that need for those people who are in that price range. And I guess the last thing that I would say is that the concern of people who have lived here for 20 years, you know, obviously I understand that it's very hard for change. Development is hard. It's hard for people to deal with that change. And so I guess I would just ask that the people who are on that side who feel that way realize that Rex and Tammy have been through that multiple times. They've lived there for, you know, since 1977, a little bit longer than 20 years. So they have been on the negative impact of all the growth around them, and that is kind of why they're, you know, making this step. So I guess I would just ask that we'd not punish them and allow them to be able to do this. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Daryl Glenn. Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Then Okay, I will open the floor. Do we have any further comments? That's okay. Just come up and state your name for the record.
I'm Crystal Howe. I was here at the last meeting.
Crystal, thank you.
May not been why we have 325. I found it on my way to my grandson's t-ball game, and instead of going to his t-ball game, showed up because we were unaware that there was a meeting going on concerning our road. But I just wanted to point out the same things we talked about last time, and kind of reiterating some things that Mark and Mr. John spoke about. I would like to let you know our neighborhood is not against building these homes. We really aren't. We just feel like there's maybe a different way to get around building those homes, talking about a cul-de-sac option and continuing a dead end. So I just kind of brought a visual with you. Kind of want to talk about some options that we have. First of all, recognizing that our road that we're on is kind of, I recognize Mark was talking about fighting that cul-de-sac, which I understand the fight, and I recognize that. Their road is a through street that goes straight down to Macy's all the way east quite a ways. Our road is a road to nowhere. We have the, what is it, Third South on that side, and then when it dead ends right at Spring Creek. If you were to follow our road any further, go past Third South, it's another dead end. So it's really a road that goes nowhere. Now, in the city planning, I'm sure there's an option for eventually that road going through into Bob Hinkey's road, which is 330 South, which again, dead ends a few blocks down at a house.
Actually, it doesn't dead end anymore.
Yeah, but
it
it heads down there, but it's not going to go clear to Millville. The option to go to Millville is going to always be the road east of there. So recognizing that, yes, we are fighting to not put this road through, or asking that you consider maybe not putting the road through, not because we don't want houses, not that we don't want a place for our kids to build a home. We think it's a great idea to build some homes in that area. We just have a different option, I think, that meets both the needs of the Gus Davidsons and us. The city planning was brought up to me that it was meant to be a through street on the city plan, but we've been there for 20 years, and the original city plan actually was to connect our street to this cul-de-sac right here. But the Gus Davidsons at that time owned this area right here and chose not to sell, which is their right to choose not to sell, and they chose not to sell that lot. So because of that, the city plan was changed. This was made into a cul-de-sac, and our road was made into a dead end, which is what happened because of that one lot right there. So we're just asking that maybe we consider the same concept that they did 20 plus years ago, make a cul-de-sac with the exact amount of lots. You can fit the similar amount of lots. A builder could put the same amount of lots. I looked at it, looked and measured, you could do the exact same amount of lots and build a cul-de-sac with a dead end street, just like was done 20 years ago. With that being said, I wanted to point out that we talked about the narrow road. I want to reiterate that Dougstead, our mill, is delivered to us. It's actually not. The mill won't come down our road. It's too narrow. So we actually have to go to this Third South to pick up our mill because the mill refuses to come down our road because it's only 33 feet. We're barely 33 feet across. I don't know what's required for a through street, but it's 33 feet. Down here, where this addition was, where the Gus Davidson's daughter built, Amy Zollinger, it's actually 44 feet. So this portion of the road's 44 feet. So when we say it's narrow, it is a narrow road. This was actually indicated to be wider so that they could put parking spaces here, but they realized we rarely use these parking spaces anyway. So the need for more parking spaces at that park isn't necessary. It's a walking park. So what I ask is maybe consider, if that's the case, this wouldn't need to be 43 feet. If we're going to make it through feet, I'm assuming it's 44 feet wide. I don't know what. I'm sure Scarlett would know how wide it has to be to make it a through street. We can make this less, and I'm just throwing this out there. I'm looking at your multi-module city for having more options for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles. This is what we came up with since our last thing. Could we consider a walking path right here? Use those 10 feet by making that a narrower street to make a walking path that would actually connect here to that fence line that's already your property, connect to a walking path you already have there. Connecting two parks through a walking option. Allowing school kids who are going to Spring Creek to decrease pollution, as we were talking, to come through this area, through our area, and use a safe means to get to Spring Creek. Just a thought. So we're just throwing that out there as a possibility. When I say it's a walking park, I have my cute Linda who came to show and support us. She's over here in the corner. Linda, come. She comes every morning. I go to work. I leave for work around 7 a.m. in the morning, and my cute Linda is in her walker, walking that park. Rain, shine, winter, our neighbors come and plow. If you don't know, there's a track around our park, an asphalt track. So people could come run to that, do a loop, go back. Linda does her routine every morning, bright and early, rain or shine, and she walks that park. And she walks around during the winter. She can't walk up the grass hill. She walks around the neighborhood to get there. When we say it's a walking park, it is a walking park. And we just ask that maybe with it being narrow, with it being just that park being right there, maybe as a city plan, we could change it to a dead-end street, a cul-de-sac, and making a pedestrian park, which I know in our city plan, which was supposed to be big, that was sent out, walking parks or walking pathways were a big part of growing this city. And I just suggest this is an easy way to add that in a road that goes nowhere. Yes, we're fighting and saying a cul-de-sac. Yeah, we're fighting for that, but not because it's just not an accessible road that goes anywhere. It's really not going to help the community to have a road through there at this point. I really believe, and I'm not just saying that because I live there, I'm saying I can see the benefits of having the cul-de-sac where the Thompsons lived to give access to that shopping area as growth hit. But no, we feel strongly having moderate housing is important for this community, but let's consider an option that works for both parties, and that's all we ask.
Okay, thank you. I want to pause you for just a moment. If you will sign the sheet so we have your name here on the record, and then Ty, do we somehow need to maybe have a picture of this, or do we need to leave the presentation with you for the record?
No, just take the comments.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's right here.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Nurse.
I was gonna say, you're not.
I'm a nurse.
Just a point.
No one can read our writing.
A lot of the comment that she had will come up in the preliminary plat stage and not the rezone stage. So in the process of things, the actual design of the use of the land isn't currently on the table. What's currently on the table is the discussion of the density at which this would be zoned, and then it will come back for another meeting and before the Planning Commission about the preliminary plat and how the connectivity or a cul-de-sac or any of those other pieces, those will all come back in a future meeting. But this would be specifically about your recommendation of the R16 zoning. So it's the density that really is what you'll make a recommendation on, knowing that there will be a future time that some of these can be addressed as well. So if they're not addressed now, for those that are here, if they're not addressed now, some of those items will potentially come up in the next one. If it's, depending on it, how it's zoned, will depend on some of the other factors. So anyway, the question was asked about width of the road. The minimum width of the road in the future would be 30 feet. That's our standard. So the actual road that leads into it is larger than the current standard. So our standard would be a 30-foot road in that area, 29 to 30-foot road. So it's actually a wide street comparatively.
Okay. But yes, let's do remember that there's a lot to consider here. But primarily right now, what we are considering is the zoning and how dense we would be willing to recommend that zoning for. Do I have anyone else who would like to speak during this public hearing?
Well, what's the current thought on density?
Go ahead and come join us.
But
And if you'll just tell us your name, please.
I'm Daryl Glenn, and yeah, that's what I was wanting to comment on and wanted to wait because I thought it'd come up.
Sure.
Yeah,
Time to
So
bring
you'll
up
just repeat
density.
your question.
What's the density being considered as of now?
Yes, so right now it's presently zoned as agricultural. And the density, the zone that they're requesting is R16. which is 600.
Which is about 6,000 square feet. So one residential unit per 6,000 square feet. So if you can imagine, if you've been over to the Brookside subdivision, that one over Spring Creek Parkway over where Brookside is, those are 6,000 square foot lot building lots. That's kind of what their zone is. Your zone, I can look up real quick, but I believe it's R110. Yeah, R110, so 10,000 square foot lots would be the minimum size within inside of your current your development that you're in. It would be a minimum of a 10,000 square foot lot. Now, an adjacent one is a 12,000 square foot lot. Obviously, the multifamily are even more dense.
Right.
So you could come in here, hypothetically, you could come in here and say, hey, we'd like it to be zoned RM18, which is where the condos are, and say, we really like high density and we want to propose this. Or you could say, hey, you know what, we want it similar to what we have, the R110, or something in between. But the R16 is basically our 6,000 square foot lots is kind of the standard, and a 60-foot frontage. So 60-foot frontage and 6,000 square foot lots. Yours is probably a 80 foot frontage and a 10,000 square foot lot, to kind of give that comparison of the zoning, what it could do. Now, how they design it, how they make that work, how they spread that out, that will all come in the next phase of things. But this is how many people could be there,
Rough idea.
Density.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll invite the developer up shortly. Do we have any more public comments regarding this public hearing? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close our public hearing regarding agenda item 2. You'll have to, excuse me, I did skip over an opportunity for general comments. So if anyone would like to make any comments regarding anything that does not pertain to the agenda, you want to talk about stop signs, you want to talk about, that's
Anything
probably
under
not
your
anything
purview.
under the Planning Zoning Commission can help you with. I'd like to invite you up now to take that opportunity. Do I have any takers? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the general comment section then. Thank you. My apologies. And we will move forward then with our legislative action item, and that is to discuss and review this rezone request, again, of parcel 02-096-0048, located in the general area of 314 West, 100 South in Providence. At this point, I will invite Scarlett up to give her staff report.
I have to appreciate the comment about the 33-foot wide street. I am going to take one incy-bincy step towards a soapbox and say, please pay attention to what goes on in the state legislature. 2 years ago, the state came in and told cities that on residential roads, we cannot require more than 30 feet width of asphalt. So if you feel like 33 feet of asphalt makes it difficult, you need to go start talking to your state representatives. They are getting very conservative when it comes to cities' infrastructure. They would like to curtail widths and uses, and it really is important that you be involved with the state. And there are a lot of ways to find out about who's on there, and I think we have links to the state legislature page, don't we? Yes, on our website, so there's lots of ways. So I apologize, but it really is important that we have multiple citizens. Citizens carry more clout with the state legislature than city staff does by a long ways. So they look at us and we're city staff. They look at citizens and you're voters, even though we vote too. For some reason, they forget that. Okay, so when the planning commission considers the rezone, we look at several things, and I'm not going to go over them because actually Mark and Doug hit them really well for me. So that was great of those guys. But we do look at our general plan. Our key initiatives to our general plan are up here. And whenever any land use thing comes in, we look at them to see if we are adhering to our general plan initiatives. We do look at the moderate income housing plan and look at the objectives and the strategies that have been called out in tonight's meeting and see how our land use requests are doing as part of that. By way of information, we do have to report to the state annually on how we're doing with our moderate income housing plan. And the result of our report actually either entitles us to be eligible for grant funding from the state in different forms of grants, or if we don't achieve the goals we need to, then they can actually penalize us. And the penalty is quite stiff. I can't remember if it is $250 a day or $500 a day now.
Well, at least $250 a day, and you can. It's not until you rectify it. It's for a whole year because you can't
Yes.
change it for a whole year. So, it is if you don't successfully pass, it is a full year at $365 times your $250 a day. It's a lot, and the another stick is that you can't apply for certain grant funding, which we get quite a bit of.
Quite a bit of,
so.
yes. So the moderate,
Stick.
it is, yes. And so we do take that very seriously, not just because we take it seriously because of the way the state has it set up. And we want to make sure that the Providence citizens are not penalized, that we have the best city that we can achieve. We look at our master plans, which first we create the general plan, and then from the general plan, we give those general plan guidelines to various consultants, like in traffic, parks, recreation, water, wastewater, that type of thing. And they look at our facilities and create master plans. So when development comes in, we pull those master plans out. I have them bookmarked right on my desktop, and we look at the parks, trails, and recreation. And this one, you can see on the report that is attached to the agenda on the website. They are within, we define parks in 3 different ways. We have a local park, we have a neighborhood park, and we have regional parks. We have 2 regional parks in the city. One is Zollinger and one is Von Bear Park. And as was mentioned, the citizens, when we did the general plan, multimodal walking trails, biking trails, that was very important in our city. And so we have tried to follow that, and we will try to follow that when the developer comes in, depending on whatever rezone this property is. Whoever ends up developing that, we will have them take those things into consideration when they develop their actual development plan. The transportation plan, we look at that. That's our long-term planning for infrastructure projects. It's a roadmap for the next 5 to 30 years and outlines strategic projects and goals for the city to implement and pursue. And I hate to break hearts, but we do have this little road shown as a local road extending from 300 South to 100 South. So having that in our plan, the staff will probably look at encouraging that, but that will come further down the road. We also collect water rights, and that's in our plan. We have a 40-year water right plan to make sure that we have the water either available through springs or wells, that we can make sure that the citizens have plenty of culinary water. We work with our wastewater master plan. We have a stormwater master plan. We also have a wastewater treatment master plan that we have to pay impact fees on, which is not our plan that we developed, so it's not included in our staff analysis. It's through Logan City, but we do pay impact fees to Logan City for wastewater treatment. We follow their plan, and a portion of their plan that applies to the city is available on our website as well. And then we do have our culinary system master plan. We also have areas in our code that talk about the uses and the regulations for sensitive areas. We have areas in our code that talk about the designated uses in each zone, and also the area regulations for each zone. One of the things that our general plan does, it has what's called a framework map, which is kind of a general idea of what could be involved in it. And our general plan also has a map that is a little bit more specific as to where we feel like different types of zones would be in effect. Now, in our last meeting, I didn't pull up the entire future rezoning of existing districts and annexed areas map. I just pulled up the part that had to do exactly with the parcel that we're talking about. In this packet that I put out tonight, because there was a lot of questions that kept asking about mostly from the commission, but you kept asking about the various zones around the area. So in this map, I expanded the area so that you could see where it is instead of focusing just on the parcel itself. I expanded the area from 100 north to 300 south, and from Gateway Drive to 200 east is approximately the area in these two snippets from our plans. The one on the left is our map that was associated with our general plan about what we think future zoning should look like in areas. The one on the right is off of the county's website. I turned the zoning layer on, and that's the city zoning layer. So if you look at the one on the right, you can see the red circle is around the green area, which shows that this property is currently zoned agriculture. If you look on the left, you can see the circle is around an orangish and white area. I don't know why the white area wasn't more orange, but SFT in the one in the left is now R112. But you will also notice right straight to the north of this, that red circle, is where the park area that we expanded to is. And the plan anticipated, it called it SFH. The plan anticipated R16 in that area. So the general plan that was approved in 2020 did anticipate that there would be densities in the range of R16 down in the area that is involved here. I'm not going to go over the other stuff. I think more people are probably, most of the other things will be taken care of, as I said, through the actual development stage when they come in with their subdivision plans. There are no sensitive areas that we call sensitive areas in this area. However, it is next to a source protection area, but residential housing is a permitted use in that area, so it is fine to change the zone to residential housing for that. Also, the uses. The uses in an R112 zone and an R110 are very close. Uses in R16 are fairly close to. One of the things that is different is in the R16, they can have single family attached. But if you notice, you have to look at our definitions to make sure. But if you notice, there's dwelling 2 family, dwelling 3 family, dwelling 4 family, dwelling multifamily. Those are like apartment dwelling units. So they could have single family attached, but on the single family attached, they still have to meet the minimum lot size. So they could have like a twin home, or they could have 2 townhomes, but each townhome would still have to be on a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet, but they could have that joint wall. So, but they couldn't have a duplex, 3-plex, 4-plex, or a full-on multifamily in this zone. The other difference is, but this isn't a candidate for interblock development anyway, because the way the grid no, it probably wouldn't. It may or may not, but it's not allowed in this area, which means you couldn't put housing behind each other. You can put an accessory dwelling unit, but not a full-on lot in a tandem style. The accessory, the other use that's different is when you get over to the agricultural uses, where the R110 and the R112, you can raise animals for sale, food, pleasure, or profit if you have enough square footage to have those. With the R16, you cannot do that. So they can still have their dogs. They can keep dogs, cats, fish, or exotic caged birds. They can keep bees, but they can't go into the larger animals or the more farm type animals. And they can't do commercial crop production, which they can do in an R112. The other difference that really is the big difference when it comes to the development community is in the sizing of the lots, and not necessarily the minimum square footage, but the lot width becomes very important in the development community, because that's the infrastructure. That's the length along the road. That's the length of the water main lines and the sewer main lines and all of the other utilities they have to put in. In the R112, it's 95 feet. The lot width at the setback line is 95 feet. That allows for cul-de-sacs because, of course, you can't have a 95-foot physical lot width in a cul-de-sac, or you'd only get one lot. So that's why it says at the setback line. As Ryan stated earlier, the R110, which is the neighborhood to the south, they have 80-foot frontages, and the lot widths, not frontages, lot widths, and the R16 is 60-foot lot widths. The R110 or R112 has 3.75 units per net acre. So when you ask how dense is that, they can have almost 4 units per net acre. A net acre means we subtract out, if they had a 10-acre parcel, we'd subtract out probably 2.5 acres for roads and utility work and things like that, and that leaves them 7.5 acres. So then they, instead of going from 37.5 homes, then they're down to 7.25 plus times 3.75. So that's how that density works. In the R110, I believe it's 4, and in the R16, it's 5.5. So if you did the math, you would get more 6,000 square foot lots out of a net acre than 5.5, but that's still all you're allowed. So 5.5 units per net acre. The side yard and the rear yard are the other 2 areas that are a little bit different than the R112 and the R110. The R110 and R112 is a 10-foot interior side yard and a 20-foot street side yard. And in the R16, it's a 7.5-foot interior side yard and a 15-foot street side yard. So that's the only thing that would only impact corner lots, and depending on the design of this development, there may not be a corner lot except on 100 South. We'll have to just see what happens when they come in. I think those are the biggest differences within the area regulations. We also, even before we do zoning, we reach out to our engineering and to our fire marshal's office. The fire marshal did make some comments, but his comments are for us to give the developer heads up should the zone be changed, because his comments will all be taken care of during the actual development phase. So, questions?
Okay, thank you so much.
I have some, but I'm
Yeah,
in no
oh
hurry.
no, absolutely.
Ryan, can you pull the zoning map up again?
You want the zones on it? Is that what you want?
Yeah, or just from her report.
That'd be page 6, I think, Ryan.
It'd be both of them, but and then if you just zoom in around the parcel. That's great, thanks. So what I'm seeing in that sort of, not the gold, but the yellowish brown,
Yes.
it's the R110,
Yes.
and then the gold is the R112.
Yes.
Other way.
Vice versa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Backwards.
Okay, so
Gold is the R110.
the gold is the
The light,
R110.
the light is the R112.
Okay. So I'm just curious, spot zoning was a term that I grew up in, but that's 45 years ago when I learned the term. And if I were in the neighborhood, my concern would be if I was in either the R12 or the R110, that the R16, and I know the developer's going to say that he's working on 10,000 minimum acre lots, but once we give this recommendation for zoning, he can do the 6,000 lots. He can just thumb his nose at us and say, you've zoned it for R16, and that's what I'm legally entitled to. But if I were down there in either of those and I had R16, I would think that would impact my property values somewhat, the people that are living there. Isn't that some type of spot zoning? I mean, agriculture was an existing use in that area.
So when I first started with the city, they did talk about spot zoning. However, I don't know when it was. I think it was when they went through in about 2007 and put in the land use code. They really beefed up the land use code. There was a land use code before then, but that's when they really beefed it up. But they changed it, and it's in 10-9A-505, and I did not put that entire code in reference, but it says that the legislative body may divide the territory over which it has jurisdiction into zoning districts of a number, shape, and area that it considers appropriate to carry out the purposes of Utah Code Title 10, Chapter 9A, which is the Utah Code. And it does go on to say that there's no minimum size of a zone. I don't remember the exact wording, but it does talk about that. So in essence, it did away with the term spot zoning. It says you can do whatever shape, size you feel like you need.
I understand you can probably do away with it, but from a policy point of view, just good planning, it's still a concept that I think plays in a number of neighbors' thoughts, that they want to have similar housing around them.
I'm sure that it does, but I have to speak from the state code representation size and the planning and the way they are right now. They're looking at if we don't integrate some of these smaller zones, then they'll do it for us. They will then come in and say, you will have duplexes in single family zones, things like that. They're doing them in other states throughout the country. It has been on the table in the Utah legislature as well. So I agree with what you're saying policy wise, but from the viewpoint of the state legislature and the way the state wants us to plan, they're wanting us to integrate all different types of zoning.
I have to tell you, that rubs me wrong, that they're gonna tell us how we're gonna plan our communities. Because the reason I moved to Providence was to enjoy Providence. I moved out of Logan on the west side of town because I enjoyed that neighborhood and wished it hadn't changed. But there was more crime coming to that neighborhood, and my kids weren't safe. So I moved to Providence, and I like the community the way it is substantially.
I totally understand. I just have to be politically correct. So, but I do understand your sentiment.
Well, if I understood you, you're saying that if it goes R6, you're discriminating against my chickens that I can raise in my...
I am probably
I
discriminating.
think you can still have chickens in R16.
Well, you can have
Yeah,
chickens?
you just can't have a horse. You can't
Okay,
have a
well,
large animal, but you can have chickens. No rooster.
roosters, I know that. We sell those on KSL when we get them.
It's up to the chair.
Okay, I think you know my feelings on it.
I do know your feelings.
Okay, any questions from the commission for Scarlett?
No, I think you did a great job, Scarlett. Thank you very much. It was very clear, and really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into it from the staff.
You always do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Doesn't
Thank
mean
you.
we won't ask you more questions.
That's okay. I'll just take the mic and sit over there.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the representative for the applicant, and I will allow an additional time for further questions. Yes.
All right, my name is Jaden Smith. I am here representing the development. Dallin Tolman, who has spoken here in the past, he is out of the country. He's asked me to speak here tonight. One, because for what I do as my job, I do this occasionally, but secondly, because Dallin's my friend, so I'm helping him out here. But I also support the project, and I live here in the area. Grown up in Providence. I've lived in 3 homes, all in Providence. Currently, me and my wife live just 2 or 3 blocks east of here, by just 1 block south of the elementary school. Where I originally grew up, I know Commissioner Hinkie well. I know the Snows well. I know the Howes well. I know Holly Budge well. So I know a lot of these people, and it's fun being back here and getting to see some of these people. I know the concerns are real. I know there's fears with this development. I'm really going to try to focus my comments on the rezone, and like Ryan Snow brought up, this is for the rezone and not the plat, and the plat can be a whole list of other conversations about a through road versus a cul-de-sac and things like that. But as far as this zoning goes, I want to thank Scarlett. She brought up that this area, I say area around this parcel, was anticipated to have R16 housing in it, in the general plan. And I might not have been this specific parcel, but it was in the plan. When the park came in behind the middle school, it changed some of those plans definitely, but R16 was intended for this area. It's a transition zone from the apartments and the townhomes that have been approved now into some of the bigger single family lots that are here to the east of it. And to address your concerns, Commissioner Chambers, yes, me as the developer, I can say we're going to build 10,000 square foot lots, and I can walk out here and go build a 6,000 square foot lot, 100%. In response to that, with this parcel, I can't really do that. The way this road is going through there, and the sizes of lots that it creates on each side of that road, I can't do a 6,000 square foot lot. If I go with an R110 zone and do the minimum lot frontage that requires, the lot becomes much bigger than any R110 lot in the area. If I go with the R16 route with the lot frontage that zone requires of 60 feet, my lot ends up being over 10,000 square feet. It's just under a quarter acre. So yes, I hear the concern. I could go and try and design and create a lot that is 6,000 square feet, but to efficiently build out this parcel with the road where it's needing to be placed, I cannot do that. So that was one area I did want to touch on. Like I said, lots of comments. I thought there was a lot of good comments from the public, a lot of them dealing with the plat that I am trying to avoid and we can address down the road. But one point that does keep getting brought up is zoning and state legislation that is pushing cities into some hard spots with their zoning. My actual job, I work for Wasatch Property Management as on the development team. So I'm traveling to multiple cities and states presenting our projects. We do mainly large multifamily projects, some of them here in the Valley, Four Seasons, Foothill Lofts, some of those projects. So I'm in a funny spot where I see a lot of big multifamily projects, but I'm also a local resident here in Providence, and I see both sides of it, and I want Providence to stay Providence as much as any of you here. With that being said, the fear is if we don't come in and do this type of a project now, that is allowing affordable housing definitely to come into Providence with these single family homes. What I don't want to see is for us to let this opportunity to go and then it get forced on us down the road that now they're pushing townhomes on this parcel. And now they're pushing higher densities on this parcel. It's no longer a 6,000 square foot lot. They're actually encouraging, 4 units an acre or 6 units an acre or a higher density acreage that would allow the townhomes or apartments to come in here. Because although I am an apartment developer, I don't think apartments or townhomes belong on this site. I think it should be single family homes. And like I said, it's a perfect transition area from apartments and townhomes that are already existing into bigger single family home lots. And so to close and wrap all my thoughts up together, I do support the project. I live here. I know how it feels to have growth and development coming our way, but I would ask for your continued support as you've shown in the past for this project. So thank you.
I have a question for you if you've
Yeah.
got to get a minute, if that's okay.
Of course, absolutely.
Whenever we talk about affordable housing, all those kind of, what it really comes down to is pricing. I'm curious about two things. If you can give me a response, ballpark, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The single family homes that you put on there, what is the price range that you're looking at?
Yeah. Do you have the presentation that Dallin submitted by chance? He kind of listed it out in there a little bit to look at.
Maybe scroll through it doesn't have a specific price.
I'm
in it.
hoping you okay, maybe we took it out then.
It just
No,
has
it's-
that it
it's
is-
depending on
has
the
an
home.
attainable price point.
Yeah. Typically where it falls is just around the 400,000 mark for a fully built out single family home in this area, which still seems like a ton of money and it's crazy. But it is an affordable home definitely compared to what's on the market today. I know John earlier mentioned some of the data that came with affordable homes, and the gap is that $400,000 home range.
Can you give me an idea about the square footage of a home like that?
Yeah, it varies. I think the smallest floor plan, and I wish I had the most accurate number, but it's about
That's okay. I'm just looking
1,500,
for
but it'll go up and down
an
from
idea
there.
of that. Okay. That's what I had. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Any others? Okay, thank you.
Says average 1,500 to 1,700 on the presentation.
Thank you.
And I think he said around 450 is what he was shooting for.
Before. Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open up a moment for follow-up questions. You'll just go ahead and come up to the mic, state your name, and
I'm Holly Budge, and I live on 325 West. We call it Howe Hills. We've loved living there. My question was, I think that maybe we were a little misinformed, and I believe that we came here thinking that we were suggesting a cul-de-sac, but really it sounds like more it's just the decision about the rezone. So I'm wondering if there's any opportunity for us to influence what that could be. I mean, we have the developer's word that is what they would say that they would do, but if that's what they would propose to do anyway, is there opportunity for us to consider and have it be rezoned to something besides the R16? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, the city says they're gonna probably recommend a road straight through, not a cul-de-sac. That's what,
Yeah, that's what, so I don't think that that's really then even our option, but really what makes sure came here to speak better to is to the zoning size. As you mentioned, Councilman, could it be the R, like what we have existing with our homes currently, the R110?
let me make it clear. This body only makes a recommendation to the city council. And the city council can do carte blanche what they want.
Sure.
They can reject the recommendation, they can accept it, or they can rezone it. And in talking with someone that, I won't mention names, but there was a recommendation that I missed a meeting and they made a recommendation, and city council acted differently on it.
I have a question. If you have you want R110 homes, but you have a cul-de-sac and one of the lots is too small, then do you have to rezone it the smaller for the whole?
So it's at the building envelope spot at the back of a cul-de-sac. It'd be a building envelope lot that would be the width, not at the frontage of the cul-de-sac, but it's back of the building envelope spot. So it's back farther on the cul-de-sacs. This one, because it's in general plan, itemized specifically calls it out as a through street. They would have to apply for a alteration of the general plan in order for it to change to a cul-de-sac. So if they wanted to go, if the developer or resident wanted to become a cul-de-sac, the process would be going through a general plan amendment, because the general plan calls it out already. So that there's a different process if that's the desire. At the rezone stage, we're talking about density. There is ways. I mean, you can do different ways. Whatever you decide the zoning is, you could make a recommendation that could vary from the developer's application. There's pluses and minuses to that. Scarlett has clearly identified some of those and highlighted the state is very accurate. You can make that recommendation, but as Joe has said, yours is a recommendation of what the council may or may not choose to do. Just to be clear, the recommendation was a 6,000 from this body last time, and the council did reject that on kind of a split vote. So that's why it's coming back here as a new application to be heard again. So it heard as a new application.
Will you highlight the transportation master plan just on the screen? It's page 7 of Scarlett's report.
Sure.
I think that's important to see. I always like visual. I have a question. As far as our goals here, our rezoning in our state that we have to meet, we have to make. If we rezone this anything less than agricultural, we would be attaining our goals. Is that correct?
It's more than nothing, but
We need to. The goal is to rezone for densities that would support moderate income
Okay,
housing. And yes, could somebody, if someone reduced the cost of the land, could someone build a 15,000 square foot home on a 12,000 square foot lots, certainly. In fact, there's quite a few of them around the city. Because a few years ago, 1,500 square feet was not the smallest home on the block. Now it's considered way small. So, yes, we would say that now you could build houses instead of being agriculture, but I don't know that we could make the argument that it was the densities that would support moderate income housing.
Okay.
Especially in higher density than the general plan may, or the general plan may suggest. I think that if it's not at least what the general plan suggests, it would not help us at all in achieving, because it already expects that the property is going to go not from agriculture, but the general plan already sets a target, and it's going farther than that target. So if you meet just the target, I don't think it helps us in all in that zoning. Does that make sense?
As far as
Oh,
moderate
okay.
income.
Okay.
As far as modern, yes, thank you.
So we have to, we're expected to go above and beyond the general
At
plan.
least the general plan, and obviously the state would like you to go much farther.
I see. Okay, thank you.
To answer John's question, in a cul-de-sac, the frontage can be less than 60 feet. As Ryan said, it's measured at the setback line, but you ask if there was a smaller lot, it can't go, if it was an R110 zone, it could not go below 10,000 square feet. If it's an R16 zone, it can't go below 6,000 square feet, the whole overall square footage size of the lot. They can go larger. There's nothing that stops them from going larger. In fact, I think that there are very few developments that don't have lots larger than the minimum lot size. But the minimum lot size is, they can't go below that.
I have another question about, you said that the city council voted on the rezoning?
Yes, they voted 3-2 to
And what was
deny the R16.
I apologize for not knowing what the summary of what that was. What, did they provide any, what did they vote? Just yes or no? Or did they want a different higher zoning, lower zoning? What?
But they did ask the developer if he wanted to consider other zoning at the meeting, and he said he didn't want to do that at that point in time. And so he wanted to proceed with the R16, and so they did, and that's how they voted. But I wouldn't even guess to tell you what there was in their minds when they voted that. You can listen to the meeting and make your own interpretation from that, so. But it was 3-2.
In favor.
Madam Chair, I have a question for the developer, if we could ask.
Yeah,
her, like-
of course.
A question that I have to understand right, you're looking at the road going all the way through. So your lots that you've put there, if you were, because of to go with the R16 to get the 60-foot frontage, you're going to, it's gonna be the depth is gonna be bigger.
Yeah.
That's why they could be 10,000 square foot lots, even though they're, the zone is R16.
Exactly.
If you were to make them 10,000 square foot lots with the 80-foot frontage, how many lots would you lose?
We lose 2, which I know doesn't seem like a lot. We've approached the landowners. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And just say your name one more time, please.
Eric John. So that would also possibly depend on the city if they would give any type of variance. If not, they would lose 3. At the 60-foot widths, right now the east side is at 65 feet and the west side with what they're proposing.
Right.
They're 65 feet on the east side of the street. They're 63 feet on the west side of the street, because they are leaving the home on a bigger lot.
Right,
I
right.
believe it's 14,000 square feet that's being left with the home. And so if they were to change, then they would lose one lot on the east side, and it would take them to 74 feet. If you took one lot off of that side. The other side, if you took one lot away, it would make them 69 feet, and they would have to be 70. So well, that was for the
R18.
So to catch you up on some of the concerns with the city council, they wanted it to be R18, which is a 70-foot frontage, so 5 feet more. But to hit that, if they lost one lot, it would go to 69 feet. If they lost two lots, if they took two lots away, it would take that west side up to 76 feet. So they would most likely have to lose 3 unless the city would give a variance and do 69, but I doubt that would be a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And
Gary.
then
Yeah.
I'll just a couple of the things that you asked about. Sorry, I was thinking. Okay, so some of the concerns from last time. A couple of them were pushing to go to R18. And the concerns, I don't know that they necessarily were coherent with that. So they were worried about parking, which is actually not how it would carry. A smaller zoning would usually, so like in your moderate home, you're usually going to have less cars. So the bigger the lots go and the bigger the homes go, the more likely you are to have bigger families that have more drivers and more cars. So that was one of the concerns that they had. And then the other problem, so where they were wanting to push to R18, like I said, they would most likely lose 3 lots. The problem with that, with the developer, was their costs don't go down. They're dealing with the same frontage. All of their infrastructure would cost the same amount, and so their costs don't go down. So the hard part is I get that change and development is hard, but I think we're kind of hitting the perfect scenario with this proposal of this development, because with the 60-foot frontages, and again, they would be at 65 and 63 with what they're proposing. Their lots are at 10,000 square feet, which meets the R110. So where they were asking to go to R18, I think it's because they were hung up on the 6,000 square foot lot, where we're already at 10,000 square feet for those lots. If they went to R18, it would up to 70 for the frontage, which is, feet barely bigger than what they're doing right now. And like I said, they would still lose those 3 lots even at the R18. And so that is the hard part. And the one other thing that Scarlett laid everything out really good. But the one thing that she did cover was the net acreage. It almost meets the R112 requirement for how many homes they'll put in there. So their density is also not bad. And on the spot zoning, to my knowledge, the spot zoning, I don't know if you want to pull that zoning map up real quick one more time. I think spot zoning would be more considered to, so if you were to have someone to ask to put like multifamily, like up in an area here where it is a single spot in a whole area of that zoning.
I know what spot zoning is.
Well, and this is
you don't
much
need to
more
explain it to me.
transitional, where it is in the plan that R16 should be there. So it's already in the master plan, but it is also like it's very much more of a transitional area where you are moving from denser to more spread out. So it's in a transition area,
Concern
not
is
really.
that you're right in the middle of R110 and R112, and you're going to put R16 there. And obviously, a couple of people, 3 of the city council, had the same concern I did.
Yeah, and like I said, if you watch back at that, their concern was to go from R16 to R18, And like I said, that's 3 lots different. So you're changing that street by 3 families. I think again, that's negligible for the side of like reducing the housing. It's not a ton, but the impact on the developer is huge because they have all the same infrastructure, they have all the same costs, and so losing those 3 lots is
The
a big
housing
deal.
prices
You know,
go
yeah,
up,
they're
right?
yeah, because the housing does go up. That was the last thing. $490,000 would be the price of a home in that resolution that was passed by the city that said that they were trying to push for the median house or the median income that I talked about earlier. That would put the cap on those houses at about $490,000, and there's just not any of those available in the city. So unless they move to a townhome or a condo. So, sorry.
I have one more question if I could. R16 to get the 60-foot frontage, great thing going that way. If you go to the R18 or you go to the R10, you're losing 3 lots in keeping the house because that lot has to be bigger. If you put a cul-de-sac at the end, do you lose any lots? And how many lots would you lose if you did a cul-de-sac at the end?
So where this road was part of the general plan, we didn't
Design
necessarily
something,
dive
look at
into
it?
the cul-de-sac. You would lose some just because of the inefficiencies of those corner lots in the cul-de-sac having to be bigger.
Yeah.
To give you a specific number, I don't know.
But you gain the road area.
You do gain the road area, yes.
Yeah.
It's just around the cul-de-sac part that is.
Because if
that
you're
becomes
going to
difficult.
have 10,000 square foot lots anyway, and the advantage to the developer is the 60-foot frontage that helps. But if you the issue is everyone around you, we're R10, we're R12, so if you, and because of the way you would develop, if the lots are going to be good size, the 60-foot frontage is a key thing. But if you put a cul-de-sac, I would be interested to know if it's that, instead of losing 3, do you lose 1? Do you lose 2? And that would be a pretty interesting. I don't know if it's something. That's just something to me, because
something
then
that
you.
It's an
yeah.
interesting question for sure. Like I
Yeah.
said, we haven't looked at it because it was.
Yeah, and
we're
I'd have
following the general
for my
plan.
own personal self, I'd have to look at the city's plans a little more greater in detail from the standpoint of the road going through is how much of an impact that is. If there was, it's a dead end now. If there was a cul-de-sac at the end in that development and you only lost 1 lot, I don't know. It was just something I would like to know. Yeah. If you lost 2 lots, but I understand too. I understand about the question to me comes down on the affordability issue. I understand that is critical, and the state would have liked to have gone a lot farther in the last legislative sessions over the last 2 years, 2025 and in 2024. We were down there for a lot of that discussion that went on. And so when Scarlett and them talk about, if you're not doing it, they're going to say, the state's going to say, we're going to come in and tell you you're going to do it. So if we can make, without destroying our community, if we can make advances that way, so kind of a give and take, I think that's important. We have to show them. And so I think that's where the Scarlett and the staff and everybody is dealing with that side of it. I think the developer is great from the standpoint of we're trying to get these homes to fill a market spot that there's a void right now, that you don't have to be in a townhouse, you can get into a home. And so I commend that effort and everything. I'm just trying to think, is if we went that route of the 60-foot frontage and put a cul-de-sac, would you only lose 1 lot? That's just where I'm coming from.
Okay, so a couple things on that. So you would lose more lots, and these guys haven't gone over it. Another buyer that had talked to me had gone over some of those things. They were looking at more multi-family rather than this. But on the cul-de-sacs, you lose more because of the frontage. As you make that circle around a cul-de-sac, you lose that frontage. And so I think Scarlett covered that it can be a little bit skinnier, but
Depth of it though, you've got the depth there. So
yeah, so you would lose.
Brian?
The cul-de-sac through isn't going to be unless they go through a general plan amendment or a master plan amendment. That's not going to be the option of it.
Okay.
The question is, if you want to maximize lots, do you change it to maximize lots or to change it? They don't have any lots that are facing first south. They could rotate lots to be able to face first south. They could put in a cross street. So if they put in a cross street, let's say for instance you wanted to maximize density. Maybe if that was the goal.
Yeah.
Let's go down that rabbit hole just for a second. If you wanted to maximize density from here, you might bring a road over towards this empty area. And if you brought a road over and at some point these then developed and continued that road through, it could be a cul-de-sac, but you could then open up the development for the backyards of all of those, which is another 5 to 6 acres. So potentially you could turn and put a side road or a road that's perpendicular instead of parallel to what's being proposed. You could take and do another road here and come off of it, maybe adjusting lot sizes. There is a multitude of opportunities that they could use to do it. Again, back to the question of this body, and this question is how many units do you think or would you recommend the council approve to be on this lot? There's other avenues in which they can magnify lots, they can do that. All of that will be done during the preliminary plat stage that you'll be part of, that will be open and transparent because it's in this meeting to do that. This one's a question. If you think the density of this should be R16, then we should make sure that we can maximize the use of that because that's where we get affordable housing, right?
Right.
If you say to the point, hey, kind of spot zoning, we want to maybe match what's next to it, that's not the most efficient or a most cost-effective use, but maybe it's a better use. We've talked, and if I can vary just slight share, we've talked about the frontage several times. Might I suggest, and I kind of suggested, but not directly to the developer, but might I suggest that you as a body could start the discussion, is there a magic to 60-foot frontages for a lot? If the 60 foot is the question, your body could start not through this application, but through an agenda item. You could start the discussion of, is 60 a magic number? Is there a reason why 60 is for 6,000 square foot lots, 70 is for 8,000 square foot lots? Is there a magic to that? Or as long as you achieve your size of lot, does the width, is there something that is important to this body and to the planning, and that's why you've established that? Just like you reevaluate your setbacks, your other things, you could at some point choose to address that question, because at this point, this is probably not going to be the last one that'll come to your body to ask that frontage question. And if it's really a matter of, hey, you want 10,000 square foot lots, and the hindrance is no magic, then why isn't that the issue that you as a body take up? And I apologize to go farther into that, but that's kind of the question that I see as the real hindrance here is the zoning is the amount of square foot. They can change they can't change the road, but they can change other pieces of the puzzle. They could widen one lot, shrink another, split something out differently. There's potentials, but the real question is does it make sense to have the density that they're asking for? And certainly the state has threatened to come in and have R16 be the standard of everywhere. And that may happen. Yours is you are from a variety of places inside the city. You are that to listen to the public and have that recommendation. Take the idea of the plan, and take the idea of and the input of the public, and to boil that into a recommendation that you believe is best for the city, and make that recommendation to the council. So
I have one last question, Ryan. And if I understood it right, the recommendations from the city in our transportation plan is that road go through.
it is the plan that the road will go through. No recommendation or otherwise or belief
Yeah.
that's not our thoughts. That's the adopted plan
Right.
from this body and the city council. Both of those, that is the adopted plan. And so that's the current adopted plan. So that's where it will go unless the plan is changed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Go ahead. Again, please state your name.
Just going to your statement that it is the plan, but it's not necessarily cement, from what I understand. Like I said, there's some options to change said plan.
Plans can be changed, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So I'm just wondering, as a neighborhood and as a concerned citizen and wanting to look into that option, if I could meet with you afterwards and you could give me options or how that plan would be changed. So I know you deal with this every day. So as a
Happy to
nurse-
meet with you. Just call
Yeah,
the
so I would
office.
love
I'd
to
be
just
happy
talk
to
to
meet
you a
with
little bit about that. Also, what is the length or the width of the street you're planning currently? That said street that you have going through, what is the width
I
currently
believe
that
it's
you have in your
is
plan?
it 29 or 30?
It's 66-foot right of way with 30 feet of asphalt.
30 feet of,
That's-
so the
that's
street would be
skinnier
30.
than The one we're on right now.
That's correct.
Okay. And then in your saying with the R16, I caught a piece, and I just wanted to make sure and verify that it was correct. With an R16, I thought you indicated that the homes could have attaching walls. Is that correct? So you could put like something that looked like a townhome and have a shared wall in order to make a bigger space in an R16.
Generally, when it's only 2 units, we call it a twin home, but yes.
Yes, so
a
twin
lot-
homes are an option.
A lot of people see those as townhouse kind of style.
Right.
But it would only be 2 and not multiple beyond there. So it
So
could be
with an
2, but
R16, you could maximize, even though they're single-family dwellings, you could maximize the size of that by putting them
A
tighter
zero lot
together.
line,
There's
yes.
actually no lot between the
that's correct. There is possible. In an R1,
Still each have to have a minimum of 6,000 square foot long.
right.
Okay.
Right. It's not shrinking the lot size. It is maximizing the home
It's
size.
concerned me because I'm in my mind, I'm seeing multiple
But
individual dwellings.
R16, R18,
Was an R18 with that
R110 all
option?
allows that, right? So
R18 does
R16,
well.
does R112? I don't remember.
R110 does
So
not.
R16, R18, and R110 does. So all 3 of those do allow that. So the area that you're in does allow that.
Does allow, okay.
That's correct. Now, it's not very common. It's not chosen very often because you
Right.
don't see it very often, but it is allowed, yes.
Okay. And then I'll talk with you afterwards, but looking into that possible, I feel like it seems like a viable option for a cul-de-sac, and I'd like to pursue that and not, I mean, my heart isn't broken yet because if you've met me, it takes a lot to break my heart. So
I'd be happy to meet with you.
I'm a go-getter. So I have some plans. So if you would help me understand, and if you would help keep us informed as 325, like that was a big concern for us that we weren't informed. If you could help me understand when those meetings would be, so we could have that option to be here and represent. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
we made sure that we had the this time's A-frame down there on the other side to hopefully make sure that was more.
But-
We didn't see many of you with the last one, and we tried to make sure that we adjusted there. And we want to make sure the public is always encourage. You can subscribe to the agendas. And the council and the planning commission generally only meet once a month, and so that's not a lot of junk mail. Just subscribing to that, like if you meet with me, I'd happy to show you how to subscribe to that so you can have that
Yeah,
information.
that's
too.
all my reiteration, just extra questions. Thank you.
Yes, and in order to change the general plan, the master plan, there is a formal application process to go through for that, right? Okay, do we have any further conversation from the commission
I
regarding
don't have
this
any other
item?
questions.
Bob?
Yeah, I think I do, actually. I just want to make sure I'm getting the gist of what everybody's saying here. It appears to me that everybody understands that there's probably going to be some homes built down there at some point. And I didn't really sense anybody saying, no, keep it agriculture. So then we did make a recommendation last time to approve the R16. But the city council didn't like that idea. They want R18 or R110 maybe, but R18 is what they're saying. But Jaden is saying that, and with an R16, the lots are more narrow than what's currently on that street. And I get the idea of the cul-de-sac, but we don't have any jurisdiction over that right now. So that's so we're just talking about whether it gets approved to be R16 or R18 or whatever. And then we don't even approve it. We just make a recommendation. So we're really not worth that much, but we're doing what we can. So so R16.
You make me feel small.
Well, somebody said be honest, so I am. Anyway, R16 is more narrow, but they're deeper lots. So they're about, I did a little calculating, and they're about 1,000 square feet smaller than, or a little bit more than that, a little more than 1,000 square feet smaller than the lots that you're currently on. I just measured the house. I don't know. I didn't measure everybody's, but I just did a quick calculation because I was curious. So they're close to the same size, but they're certainly configured differently because they are more narrow. So then if you go to the R18, which apparently the city council was considering or recommending, then the frontage has to be 70. But it was mentioned that you can't get 70 without eliminating maybe 5 lots or something. I don't know, because you could get 70 with 3 lots being eliminated. Okay. But then, does anybody have any idea how much that adds to each lot? How much cost? Has anybody figured that out? Probably not, I'm guessing. I don't know. But just because it's going to make every house more expensive, right? Obviously. So that makes the lots at 70, makes them about the same size as yours. And that's maybe why the city council was talking about that. It makes them about 11,000 square feet. If you went to the R10, now they become bigger. They have 80-foot frontage, and they become bigger than the lots that are already on the street. So the R18, I could see why the city council was considering that. The only issue with that would be now the houses all cost more money because they're building less houses. The lots are bigger. Lots in Providence are expensive. So now the houses are more expensive. And so maybe the decision is, are we really shooting for the least expensive but nice home in that area versus matching what else is there? I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but that's what it seems like to me, that those are the two choices, really. Anybody have it? Can I ask if anybody has any thoughts on that?
Why not?
If I'm missing anything? Okay. So.
That's the developer's concern. If he loses those, then he loses the ability to keep the housing at like the $450,000, or for sure under that 400.
Right. And so what we're weighing is, as a recommendation, is matching more closely what's on that street or making the housing more affordable. It seems like to me. And Mark Thompson.
Yes, Mark, come on back up to the mic, please.
Mark Thompson. I want to go back to what Joe said. That was a good statement that Joe made. At that 60-foot frontage, they could reconfigure, or 6,000 square feet, they could reconfigure that to put more in there. But with the layout of the existing street that's already on the master plan, There's no way he can do that. That's why the lots are the size that they are. And then second of all, it meets the federal requirements and the state requirements as far as affordable housing. In a nutshell, you make that more square foot, the cost goes up, and we're headed the opposite direction of what the state is asking city councils to do. Honestly, looking at this and seeing the plan, I don't think those homeowners will even recognize that they're 4 or 5 foot narrower than the ones that they're on, because they will have 10,000 foot deep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, I'm going to take a moment, if I may. Ryan, will you it's page 6 of Scarlett's, it's the master plan, the general plan. You'll see that this is what I'm thinking. So we had agricultural where the park currently sits. We had SFH in the general plan. SFH is now R16. So we did have in our general plan R16 in this area. And we took it, we traded it, we moved it, we put a park there. That's fabulous. But we still need R16. We still need it. Ryan, can you look at the zoning map and scroll out? Is the only place in Providence R16 Brookside? Is that the only place that we have?
We have some others, but let's zoom it out and show where. So the Brookside is right up here.
Parkway.
Yep, Spring Creek Parkway, and what is this, First East? So the brown area right there is the R16. So the new part of the vineyard is R16. New part of the visionary is R16. There is, I thought there was some down on this side. Oh, Bower Springs, yeah. The 55 plus, yeah, down here is R16.
Oh, the other 55. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for showing me that. That's definitely something I usually have that map pulled up. I didn't bring mine.
So there are a few.
There are a couple. I would personally like a 55 and older. Honestly, I'm ready. I don't want to take care of my yard.
I don't think you're that old.
I'm not yet, but
maybe
I'm
when
working
they're
on
built.
it. So that's something that's going through my mind, is that we did in the general plan, we did specify a place for this type of housing in this area. And we made a trade, so maybe we ought to make a trade. That's one of my thoughts. Another one of my thoughts, this is my last night, I might be a little sentimental, but the reason that I'm here is because I want you to be heard. We have a little bit of a mix today, which is fabulous. Usually it's all opposition. Those are the loudest voices. But what matters and what we're all here for is to represent you. We're not elected, so we're really just you. We're just your neighbors. We're just here so that you have an opportunity for your voice to be heard. So I weigh that very heavily, very heavily. I also have to weigh what the state is telling us to do. We have these goals that we have to make. I don't like to drive by fear, but I do know that we need moderate housing. My best friend, my coworker, she makes the same amount of money as I do, and she cannot afford a home. She's stuck. She has to rent. She has no other choice. So I for people like that, I mean, she's, we always say we want our children to live here. We want mine can go away. That's fine. But but I'd like my best friend to be able to have a home and live near us. So those are things that I consider, and I also consider the property owner's rights. And I weigh that very heavily too, is what they have and what they want to do with their land and what they should be allowed to do. So those are things I consider in making my decision. I just wanted to let you all know that. And again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here and participating in this process. I would like you to continue to participate in this process. Like we've said before, we are a recommending body. So the decision that is made here today is simply that, a recommendation. So City Council will be making the decision, and they want to hear from you too. They will listen tonight to this meeting, hopefully, but you'll have an opportunity to attend that meeting as well. So stay informed, keep checking the website, sign up for the notifications, and continue to participate. All right, with that, do I have anyone else on the commission that would like to say their piece or ask any further questions?
I have something to say. A couple weeks ago, I went to Denzel Stewart Park, and there's a sign there, some signage, and it says, Cache Valley has the flattest, most fertile agricultural land in all of the state of Utah. Now, this sign was probably a while back, made a while back. So I hate to see agricultural land go away because you can never get it back. I understand growth. I didn't hear any opposition about the growth. So I will vote in favor of rezoning, but it does pain me. I really hate the state telling us what to do. That really rubs me the wrong way. I will try to do whatever I can to voice my opinion about that. That just seems so wrong that the state has to tell us, our little Providence, what we have to do and how we have to zone things. And I do want to get clarification about that penalty. What exactly, when would that be enforced? I kind of didn't understand what you said.
We submit an annual report to show our progress towards the goals of the, so the state gives a certain number of goals, the set goals. We have to report our progress toward those goals. It's due in August 1st. So if we will submit our report by then, and the state will review and determine if we've been satisfactory to that report or not. And if we are not, if they determine us in deficiency, we have the ability to either have a one-time amendment or a appeal hearing. And if we fail in those, then the penalty is assessed for the next year until that August 1st deadline.
And those are goals that we set?
Yeah.
We have, the city has selected those out of the 30, was it 35, 30, 32? Out of the 32 options, we get to pick 5 to 7 of those. But they set the 32 options, that's established by the state. We have to select which options we'll choose to work on. I believe that came to this body to select those goals.
Suggest those goals. Not select them,
correct.
suggest.
Select them because the council is actually the one that.
Select from the suggestions.
Yes, select from the suggestions to make the recommendation of which ones to choose to the council. Yes, agreed. Yeah. But then at that August 1st, so we know, and then that kicks in, and then it's a penalty through to the next reporting deadline. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it answers it, but I still don't understand what. I don't know
that
I don't know what the
appreciate it.
goals are. So.
I think some of those goals are inside the staff report, are they not?
Yes.
I was going to say, I think they're in there.
There's a link to it on the website, but I can email you the copy of those goals.
Okay. Yeah, I should familiarize myself with that. I guess one other thing I wanted to say is about the master plan. I don't know, when it was made or who made it, but or what kind of input was given. I doubt a lot of citizens got input. So when something like this comes up, it's in the master plan, but they probably didn't consider a lot of the thoughts and feelings of.
I think there's generally a lot of public hearings when a master plan is created. It probably took 3 years, and I don't know how many public hearings. I would argue that a master plan takes a massive surveys of the public, takes various. So if you had been on it, I think it would have consumed you for a year.
Okay.
There was a lot of input from the citizens, and a lot of.
And then it kind of starts in this body. That's part of your planning hat. You have the zoning hat and the planning hat. That's part of that planning hat. So a lot of that would have come through here. A consultant would have helped to drive some of that discussion and get that. And then that would have gone up to the council. Oftentimes they're reviewed every 10 plus years. The last one was adopted in 2020. Yep, 2020. So it had been worked on, and I came at the very tail end of all of that. So
just by
even,
show of
even
hands,
me, I was
does
just here
anyone
little, so.
did anyone know about the master plan? Okay, so.
So.
Okay. At this point in time, I will call for a motion on item number 3, the Timberbrook Homes rezone recommendation.
I'd make a motion that we reject the application for a rezone to R16. Let me explain my reason for it, if you don't mind. First, I'm not opposed to the development of that property down there. I am concerned that once you grant a property zoning classification that allows 6,000 acres, 6,000 square feet, that, and I understand what Mr. Thompson said and what the developer said, but I've also seen engineers work around that and redesign it. I think there are solutions out there. I don't know why the developer and the city don't come to a development agreement to guarantee the 10,000 acres, 10,000 square feet lots, so it's compatible with the neighborhood. But as I look at the city goals that we've adopted, we have a sense of place, and a sense of place to me is quality of life, and it's these people's quality of life of having similar neighborhoods. There's the other one of trying to have various housing opportunities. But I don't know that providing those housing opportunities trumps the citizens' quality of life. And I just don't think the 6,000 square feet is the proper zoning that we give that right to the developer. If he wants to go back and get a development agreement and some guarantee that, and the city council rezone it, I'd encourage the city council to grant the R16 if they get a development agreement that guarantees that those lots are going to be compatible with the other neighborhood. But I don't want to downgrade it to where right in the middle of it. I'm also concerned about whether or not the legislatures, I really would like to find out the neighborhoods that all the legislators live in, and if there's a little bit of hypocrisy going on, because I doubt if they're living in R16 zones and they're telling us what we need to do. And I know we have a representative form of government. We're a Republican form of government. We elect our representatives to make these decisions. But I don't know that we're, as a public, giving enough voice to them as to what we want. So I made the motion, and that's why I made the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Just to clarify, motion to recommend to the city council that they reject.
That it not be rezoned to R16.
I mean, you just said motion to reject application, so.
Well, I don't know if I worded it
Yes.
correctly, but the motion is that the R16 zoning request not be granted.
Do you have a recommendation? Or can we talk about that, or how's that?
You have a motion.
We have motion and a second. We can have discussion, yes.
So I'd like to know what, before I vote, because I'm really mixed on this, so I'd like to know what you would recommend.
And I respect you if you disagree with me. I'm not,
And I appreciate that, but I'm still wondering what you recommend. Do you have a recommendation?
well, my recommendation is that we're making a recommendation, if the motion passes, the recommendation for the rezone to R16 fails, the city council can then override that, and they can rezone it R18, they can rezone it R110, R12, whatever. But they also have a third option out there that I don't know if they've really considered, and that's a development agreement that they would rezone it as R16, irrespective of my motion, that would guarantee the lot sizes would absolutely be 10,000 square feet. I don't have that authority. So I'm not willing to give the developer a carte blanche open checkbook to 6,000 square feet without some guarantee. The city council can do that. I can't. I'm not opposed to the 10,000 square feet, but once you vote for R16, he can do anything. He can sell the property, and another developer has the right to develop 6,000 square feet lots.
Scarlett, can I ask if that is something that we could put in our conditions or recommendations, I suppose? Could we recommend that the city council request a development agreement?
They are difficult to get. I'm looking it up. They changed the state code on development agreements as well. They can enter into them. They talk about, they may not limit the authority to enact a future land use regulation, which it wouldn't. A development agreement may not require a municipality to change the zoning designation of an area of the land use within the municipality in the future. And it may require development agreement for the height of the structure, the setback, a density transfer or bonus, a development incentive, a zone change, an amendment to a prior development agreement. So
Sounds like we could do some research on it for you. Recommending wise, you may recommend something different, but then we'll do the research as staff in addressing if the council says go there. It won't be at their next meeting to do that. It will take quite a bit more time to do it.
What we're asking, well, I think part of it is, Ryan, can we entertain a motion that grants the R16 zoning, recommendation for the R16 zoning with the stipulation, with the condition that the lots would be a minimum of 10,000 square feet? Can we make that recommendation? Or is our only authority, our only position is that we can recommend a zone and that's all?
I don't think we can. I don't think we can. That's why I made the motion the way I
Right.
did. And it's on the record, and I'm trying to give the city council
Right.
the opportunity to enter into a development agreement if they want that. But like I say, once this property is sold and it's vested with R16, they can sell it to any developer, and it can change remarkably.
we-
And I trust
yeah.
this developer. I'm not saying this developer's dishonest. I'm just saying that's what you give them is a vested right to 6,000 square feet.
We had a similar situation years back where we did, and the developer changed. I don't
Surprise.
remember if it was sold, but because of that, it did change. And there was some wrangling that had to be done, but I agree, that's what can happen. And then you have a whole nother mess on your hands. So,
I will tell you that if council were to decide to do the development agreement route, it would come through this same procedure. It's treated just like a land use ordinance change. So it's.
Well, they got one vote in favor of it with me if they do it.
so the city council would send it back to us with that to approve it with a land use or agreement, development?
Wanted to go the development agreement route, it has to be prepared, the development agreement itself has to be prepared just like a land use ordinance.
A change in land use ordinance.
Yes. So it would, the staff would be directed and we worked out terms that the developer would work with, and we would come through and we would hold public hearings, and it's in and of itself, it's like a little mini ordinance. So it comes back through the process. It's not like it used to be where the city council could review the development agreement and make their requirements all through the city council. This comes completely through like a land use ordinance.
Thank you.
So if you went the development agreement route, it would still come back by law.
Okay. We have a motion on the table and we have a second. I will go ahead and take a vote. Michael, I'd like to ask how you'd like to vote.
I'm going to vote in favor of the amendment with the understanding that my position is I support the developers in attempting to bring in affordable housing. And I understand what you're saying in regards to the commitment for the size of the lots. But whatever action we would take tonight would not guarantee that. So the ability to, as recommended by, in this recommendation, this motion, is that the city council and the city work out a development agreement so that you're able to do what you want to do, and at the same time, we represent the community in the way that we've been, the codes have been set up and so forth. So I do support the development. I support what you're looking to do. I would explore options to see, well, and the transportation plan says this is what the master plan is, so that road's going to go through. So you have the opportunity to do whatever you're going to do. So my vote is in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Bob?
This has been hard, but because I'm not sure there's another way the developer can develop it other than what they're doing, but I understand what Joe's saying as well. And so I'll support the motion with the hope that they'll come back with a plan and then we can support it and make it still work.
All right, and my vote for the motion is nay. I believe that we should recommend the R16, and I want it to be on the record that it was not a unanimous vote. John was the second. Right? Do you have more you want to say?
You still have to vote.
Oh, that's not his vote? Oh, I apologize. I thought your motion and
I
second
vote
were
in favor of
were
my
of the
motion.
vote. Yes. Okay, John.
I vote in favor.
Thank you. All right. That's okay. And so that's our recommendation for the city council. That finishes up our agenda item. At this time, we just have one thing left on the agenda. I would like to offer you the opportunity to stay for the entertainment if you'd like, or you may go ahead and leave at this time. Item number 4, appointment of new commission chair and vice chair. At this time, the commission will discuss and may move forward with voting on a new planning commission chair and vice chair.
I'm gonna take a break for a second.
Sure. Let's take a 2-minute break.
We leave it live stream, so make sure what you say is.
We're on the record. Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, 2 hours. Well, and it is true. Say 6,000. I don't know how they maybe could figure out a way. I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Hopefully nobody's against it. I think there'll be houses there. Just to guarantee that it's going to look appropriate for the neighborhood.
Do we know how many lots there was?
20. And if you eliminate 3, then that's 15%, which is, I figured, because I was doing the calculations while we were talking, around $22,000 to $25,000 per house would go up. Because it's just a lot that goes up, nothing else changes. In fact, they run a little bit less electric.
Michael, where's your son at nowadays? He used to come to
Still
these
in
meetings.
Minnesota. He has 3 months and 18 days.
Oh,
He'll be home.
Still counting.
How many hours?
I could tell you that, but I'd take me a minute to do the math.
Is he enjoying it?
He's had a great time. He's had a great time. He was, capacity where it was last thing as a zone leader in an area where there was a lot of refugees. So they were having tremendous success. They moved him again out to a more affluent area, but they put him in charge of all the social media posts and work that they did, which is tremendous. They constantly are, they have missionaries that's their full-time thing. So he has to prove everything and that kind of stuff, coordinate. So he would rather be out teaching and that kind of stuff. But this is where his mission president wants him to get it straightened out and do good. And he does. He's very detail oriented. So he gives me a list every week when we talk of the things I didn't complete, so that I need to work on. But he's doing great. Thank you for asking.
No.
All right, let's get back to our meeting. You're being
15 people out in the hall that don't know what the hell just happened. What was the vote?
Our vote was to recommend to the city council that they do not rezone to R16.
Okay, with no other stipulations, so.
We can't make any stipulations. So we recommended
On the record that they look into a development.
agreement.
And what was the vote? 1 to 4?
4 to 1.
4 to 1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're back in session with item number 4, appointment of a new commission chair and vice chair. At this time, I would like to nominate my friend to the right, Bob Hankey, to the commission's new chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have a new chair. Bob, who do you want your vice chair to be?
I voted.
Do we vote on
because
that?
you're going to get refreshments, right?
Should have said that first.
The Cache County Council gets them before the meeting. Not the council, but the Cache County Planning Commission.
Do they really?
I'm joking.
I don't.
Do I have anyone who would like to
Would somebody
volunteer
like to be the vice
as
chair?
the vice chair for Mr. Hankey?
I would make a motion that we recommend Julie.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's a
All right.
clarification.
Yeah, I wasn't either. Thank you very much.
I think it goes for a.
That's how it works sometimes.
For a stamp from the council, if I'm not mistaken. It goes
Yes,
there for
has to be
their
approved.
stamp.
Okay.
So,
Those are our recommendations
yeah,
to the
and,
city council
And you may just make sure that where that goes.
that she's willing.
Anyway,
We'll-
so
we'll-
if
we'll
you
let her
want,
know.
Maybe reach out, make sure she's.
That's what she gets for not being here.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I just,
Was one meeting I missed before I've missed several others, but at that time.
before she goes to the council and has that changed, and one of you that don't show up next week.
Okay, on that note, I have one follow-up that I wanted to discuss with the commission. It was brought up during this meeting that we as a body reevaluate the frontage of our zones. Is that something that you would like included on the next agenda to discuss?
Well, I'd like to know the pros and cons of it. I mean, I don't know what the pros and cons are.
And maybe it's just added as a study item, so you just talk about those. I don't either.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, with all due respect, I don't know that there's anybody on this body that, other than giving an off-the-cuff opinion. I mean, obviously those are there for some reason, and I'd like to get, an explanation of what their, what the purpose is.
Yeah, I agree. When the city council, and I did go and I did listen to the meeting, and they also don't think that we do enough homework. So I would encourage all of you to watch those meetings as well and go through and read all of the recommendations and the analyses and do a site visit if you can and make sure that you're really well informed on the topics that are discussed. But when the city council asks for us to look at something, I think we should do that. So I would like, Ty, if you don't mind, to add that as a study item to the next agenda.
Where would you find information on that? I mean, I gotta be honest with you, as an attorney, I don't even know where I'd look.
I think opinions on that have changed substantially over the last 5 years. So, because at one point in time, I think they felt like, yeah, we're gonna have this wide of a driveway, you were gonna have this wide of a house, so you wanted to have this wide of setbacks. People have challenged us on that for quite a long time, so the width of a lot and the setbacks. So, but I do think opinions have changed over the last few years as to how important the side setbacks really are and the width. So if you still want 10 feet and you allowed it to go down to 60 feet, and you still wanted 10-foot setbacks, you would give you
Yeah.
40 feet of house width, and then whatever your depth would be to get your house size. If you went to the 7.5, which is allowed with the 70-foot frontage and the 6,000 square foot lots, then from 60 feet, 15, so then they get 45 feet of house width. So I think that those are some of the things that come into play on width. But I do think that just the overall idea of it has changed somewhat.
Okay. Maybe you can find some fresh new ideas for us.
You can certainly find comparables, because that's an approach, is finding comparables.
Yeah,
But some
maybe
of
it can
that
be
opinion-
a range instead of a solid I don't know.
We can certainly look to
Something we
see
can
what others
study.
are doing.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else is ahead of us.
You're okay.
We are. We're almost finished here. Almost finished here. Just one moment.
Okay, no, it's all good. Oh, we're still in a public.
You're still in a meeting, you're welcome to
Oh,
be
you're
here.
welcome. You're welcome in here.
I'm welcome.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say thank you
Okay.
to everyone that was still here. We felt like we're I'm just kidding. I am just so kidding you.
You must get my
No,
hand
we
high,
really
thank you.
felt hurt, you know? So, thank you. Appreciate it. And I didn't get this guy's name, but, this is Ty. Hi, Ty. Thanks.
He's very important to the city.
You're awesome.
Very
Thanks
quiet,
for
but
your service.
thank you.
Good luck to you.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that, I mean,
Sure.
are you looking at towards architects? I mean, they're the ones that are building that, or
Could you
designing the
pass that
houses.
down to
or
Shelley? I borrowed it
designers.
from her. Thank you very much.
I can send note out to tax planners and see what they're doing in their different cities, and
What's wrong with
we
this
can
thing?
look at other cities and things like that, and,
It'll go
I
off
belong
in
to
a minute,
the,
fade off, but
the Association of Planners, and I can
one of those
actually
numbers.
put something out on
yeah,
there.
it'll go off in a
See
minute.
what they would.
I think if
how
you
they-
move it, it
what kind of
comes up.
thoughts they have.
But it does
I
not,
mean,
it'll stay down. It's
and I don't mean to be vocal about
It,
this,
it
but-
won't connect up.
but I like you as the planner because you're not the traditional
Usually Tyler
planner
will take it to
that
get
has
it
gone up to
checked
the
out.
college and been indoctrinated by another planner
That
that's
one's
not
not
working out there in the real world. And then they spawn all these other planners that just want to control all the world. And so,
Well, I can reach out to architects and other people and engineers and the fire department. We had a great discussion about 8 years ago on setbacks, with the planning commission. And we did change a few a little bit. But we talked about, and we had the fire department involved, because our biggest deal was with public safety. But I think part of the reason that some of the ideas for setbacks are starting to be looked at again is really because of the push, the governor's push for the 6 units per acre. So, yeah. But I'll do some homework and reach out to all different kinds of people.
well, I'll have to ask Tammy Pfeiffer where the governor lives.
The governor's mansion is not the R1.
I don't think it is. Nor is his home down further south.
Isn't he really? Yeah, I'm a cop. I thought you were, but I didn't. I just didn't.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion that we adjourn. And I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Well
Thanks,
done.
Shelley.
All right. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck.